Okay, so let's get into this. Picture it. Sunshine, palm trees, maybe the ocean sound. I mean, relocating to Puerto Rico, it really does sound like the dream for a lot of
It
people.
absolutely does. But like any big move, especially to an island with its own unique way of doing things, that dream sometimes bumps up against reality.
Yeah, exactly. So what are those common sort of stumbles people hit when they actually make that jump?
Well, that's what we're looking at today. We've got this source, someone who actually moved there, lived it, and based on that experience, they really laid out the top 5 mistakes they saw people making, or maybe even made themselves at first.
Oh, okay. So it's practical stuff.
Very practical. It's
Yeah.
about the real transition.
Got it. So our mission here for this deep dive is really to unpack these 5 potential pitfalls, and more importantly, look at the source's tips on how to actually avoid them.
hmm
The idea is to help you, the listener, get that kind of insider view. So if you're thinking about a move, you can maybe navigate it a bit more like a pro, sidestep some of those common headaches.
Right. And what's interesting right off the bat is how the source kind of cuts through the postcard image. They get straight to the operational side of things.
Yeah.
The very first mistake they list is assuming it's just like the mainland. Because, while, yeah, it's a U.S. territory, their experience showed things operate really differently, culturally and definitely bureaucratically.
Right, right. And their point wasn't that it's like worse or slower necessarily,
Yeah.
but just different. They mentioned things, didn't they? Like local holidays affecting business hours, or that whole concept of island time.
Yeah, exactly. Island time, which the source sort of described as maybe a more relaxed pace, a bit more flexibility around timing than, the really rigid schedules some folks are used to.
Okay, so the tip there from the source is pretty key then. You got to embrace those differences, learn about them, don't fight them expecting it to be like back home.
Absolutely. Resisting just leads to frustration, they found.
Makes sense.
And, well, if you think about it, resisting or just not realizing those differences, that often leads you right into mistake number 2. Underestimating the paperwork and bureaucracy.
Ah, yes, the paperwork. Always the paperwork.
Always. The source found that tasks you might think are, pretty straightforward elsewhere, getting a local driver's license maybe, setting up utilities.
Yeah, basic stuff.
It could get surprisingly complex. They talked about navigating specific local agency rules or the documents needed. It just took way longer or involved more steps than they thought it would.
Okay, so that sounds like somewhere you could really get bogged down. What was the source's advice for that particular pitfall?
Well, this is where they got really practical. Their tip was, know this complexity is coming, and seriously think about maybe partnering with a relocation expert.
Someone on the ground.
Exactly. Someone who already knows the ropes, knows the local systems, maybe has the contacts. They can navigate all that much more efficiently. The source basically warned that trying to figure it all out yourself from scratch, well, it can just eat up so much time and energy.
Yeah, I can imagine. That makes a lot of sense.
And this idea of preparation, it goes beyond just the paperwork, right? Which leads to the third mistake the source brought up, choosing the wrong location.
Ooh, okay. How so?
They really stress that not every town or even neighborhood on the island offers the same thing. The same infrastructure or the same lifestyle fit.
Like what specifically?
Well, for instance, they observed how some really beautiful spots, places that look ideal, they might have less reliable power or spotty internet, which is obviously a huge deal if you need to work remotely.
Total deal breaker for many, yeah.
Right. Or maybe a place is just too far from, say, good grocery stores or healthcare. Or it might have unexpected noise levels you didn't notice on a quick visit.
So thorough research then, that's the tip.
Absolutely. The source says, figure out your non-negotiables first. What do you absolutely need? Reliable internet, short commute, good schools, quiet, whatever it is.
Define your priorities.
Yes. And then visit potential places with those priorities front and center. Really investigate based on those needs. Don't just, fall for a pretty view.
That's solid advice for moving anywhere, really.
It is. And it's not just the physical place either. The fourth mistake gets into the social side of things, not factoring in cultural integration.
Okay, what do they mean by that?
Well, the source noticed how easy it can be for newcomers, for expats to kind of stick together, to socialize mostly within their own bubble, which, sure, it's comfortable.
But you miss out.
Exactly. It limits your connection to the island, to the local people, and ultimately it just makes the whole experience less rich,
So the tip there must be about putting in some effort.
Yes, active effort. The source suggested learning at least some basic Spanish, enough for daily chats, going to local festivals or events, making an effort to interact with Puerto Ricans, just being genuinely open to learning about the local culture.
Mm-hmm. Being open.
They felt that really makes a huge difference in feeling like truly settled and part of the community.
Yeah, that connection piece is huge. Okay, so what was the fifth one?
The fifth mistake really highlights that the move isn't done the minute your plane touches down. It's believing the move ends when you land.
Thinking the hard part is over.
Right. But the source's experience was clear. Relocation is an ongoing thing. There's an emotional adjustment, building a new routine, finding new friends or support systems, just settling into the day-to-day realities, which might be different than you imagined.
So the advice here is patience. Give yourself some grace.
Pretty much. The source advises understanding it's more like a marathon, not a sprint, and leaning on support or guidance when you hit those inevitable bumps or feel overwhelmed. It just smooths the path.
Okay, that really paints a picture. Relocation isn't just landing somewhere new. It's got all these layers: cultural, bureaucratic, even emotional.
Absolutely. And the core message really coming from this source's perspective is crystal clear. If you want to relocate successfully to Puerto Rico, you need solid prep beforehand. And you need to be willing to actively understand and embrace the differences once you're there.
Preparation and embracing difference. Got it.
And crucially, they found that getting good, informed guidance through that whole process, it can be invaluable.
Right. And the source actually mentioned, didn't they, that seeing these common problems motivated them. They pointed towards resources set up specifically for this.
They did. They mentioned services designed to help professionals and families, giving them that kind of insider knowledge and help navigating everything, the stuff they wish they'd had.
Like Coquí Destination and Relocation Services, I think was the name.
Yeah.
They said they offer a free 15-minute chat too, right? At coquidr.com. So seeking out that kind of specialized help is like a key strategy this source recommends.
Definitely. It lines up with avoiding those pitfalls we talked about.
Wow.
So thinking about all this, the bureaucracy, the cultural side, finding the right spot, what aspect of relocating, maybe to Puerto Rico or somewhere similar, feels most surprising or maybe most important for you to really think about preparing for?
That's a good question to leave people with.
Yeah.